Hello fellow musicians, Ashlee Busch here, composer of Goddess Triquetra. In this video, I'm going to be going through the score and talking specifically about your section and how your section functions in the piece. We're going to be going through with the score on screen and I'm going to be listening along with. This is meant to give you a little bit of a heads up in the rehearsal process, insight into what I was thinking when I wrote something and how it functions together within the piece. I highly recommend that you have your part in front of you as we are going through and doing this together so that you can see specifically what parts I'm referring to. All right, let's get started. Just kind of sit back and enjoy the bowed vibraphone here in the beginning. So listen to those air sounds that are happening in the instruments above you. That's going to be something that's going to be coming in. And air sounds on a brass instrument may not be something that you are requested to do very much, but it can be really, really effective because of the kind of the coldness of the metal of the instrument can really communicate an air sound really well. And I'm going to be putting links in the description of this video for reference for you to check out other people who have professionals who have recorded making air sounds to see how it might work on your instrument. And they're really important because this atmosphere in the beginning is so creepy and non-metered that it's you can kind of imagine a Hades in the shadows kind of waiting to pounce, and then he does. So one of the biggest, most important things in this piece is the use of articulation. Really differentiating between a tenuto accent, a staccato accent, and a marcato accent so that you can hear a really distinct difference. Da 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 da. So that you can hear that and that you're really thinking about it as the performer, because then the audience will hear that really effectively as well. A lot of what's happening here is very trumpet heavy. It's designed to be that way. You hear these offbeats that are happening in the brass. These really pointed attacks that are going on in all of the brass is a lot of what's happening right here. Now listen down, you can hear the horns have the melody right here. And even though everybody else is doing so many different things, the horns you have to shine out right there. So feel free to have your biggest, warmest, brassiest kind of sound come across. And yes, we also have the exhales. This may be another thing that feels a little silly to practice, but it works really cool because when it's done by a human, it actually kind of sounds like a reverse cymbal. So we have sort of an electronic effect that's happening there. So make sure you get rid of all of your air each time you perform one of those. So this horn and saxophone duet that's happening, you may notice that it's that happens a lot in this piece, and really emphasize the octaves there. That's going to be important. But that melodic horn sound being paired with the saxophone creates this really different kind of mixed brass instrument that works really interestingly. So horns, make sure you're listening up to the saxophones in those parts. In this part, trumpets, yes. These repeated notes that you have are going to be so important for everybody referencing their pitches. Or referencing their rhythms. You can hear here it's really trumpet heavy because these accents that are happening are really being driven by the trumpet section. So make sure that you give that as much like dedication to precision as you can make. And yes, brass, you start by teaching us how the humming is going to be working. If you listen to the clarinets, you can hear that they are giving you the reference pitch that you have to hang on to the entire time as the melodic humming is happening above you. It's so important you hang on to that pitch because everyone else who is humming is listening to you, and they have to reference what you're singing and come back to it as their temporary tonic pitch. And then of course here, you have the melodic humming yourself. It's so important that you really dedicate yourself to this effect. It may feel silly to practice because you're a band performer and you may not have had to do humming or singing in a band piece before. If you can hear, that's actually like 25 different recordings of me and my sound engineer. You can hear when that effect is done well, that it creates this like spooky, you can hear a human in there, but it sounds so ethereal and non-worldly. And you can imagine at this point in the story when a mother has had her child taken from her, this mourning that she would be having. And that's what I was thinking about when I was recording this humming part for you guys to reference. So here we have a little bit of a brass interlude. The horns are going to be entering in at the end of it. And it's really important when you do horns that you are listening to that low brass sound and you try to fold your sound into what they're already doing as you enter at the end of this little solo, so it doesn't really pop too much. We want that different kind of higher sound, but we don't want something that's going to really change the texture, because the change happens here when the flute solo comes in for the first time. Because we have this feeling of maybe we're coming to a place of contentment or catharsis, and instead we have all of a sudden this really creepy chord in that last chord for the brass that transitions into this really mournful, crying out flute solo that comes in. All right, so now we're coming into this last section, Twin Torches. So these accents have to be so pointed and so precise because they're happening all up and down the ensemble. And so if anybody's off, the effect doesn't work. So it's really important to be counting and really dedicated to making sure that your rhythmic accuracy is absolutely perfect here. As another example of rhythmic accuracy being perfect, this part in the trumpets where you have these repeated eighth notes. Everybody else has all these different rhythms that are going on. They're happening on the beat, they're happening off the beat, they're happening all over the place. You are the only ones that have this steady kind of pulse, and everybody's listening to you to reference where they sit in the measure so that you can hear, so they can hear how to match you. Also notice that you're with the marimba here, so you can listen down to the marimba and match what the marimba is doing. But your accuracy here is going to be absolutely essential. And trumpets, you can have these big like Holst Mars kind of chords going on that the horns and trumpets are working on together here. This is the thing that's happening. So make sure you're big and round and loud, but also make sure you can hear everything else that's happening so you don't drown anything out. This is all about listening across the ensemble. Resolution right here, make sure that resolution is coming out nice and strong so you can hear it. And now, trumpets, that line right there, it is essential that line be rhythmically perfect. And each one of these interjections that come in, there's no warning. The only thing you can do is listen to the percussion and count, and they have to be right on target. If anything in this piece is kind of like tentative, maybe I should play here, it's not gonna work. It really has to have that dedicated, forceful, sitting on the edge of your seat kind of approach to performing it. Make sure you really emphasize those leaps. They're gonna be challenging, so make sure you emphasize them. So right here, you should be playing as loud as you can while still controlling pitch. If you lose control of the pitch, two things are gonna happen. You are gonna bury the rest of the ensemble. You know you can. And that's not what we want here. And you're not gonna be able to be really centered in your intonation. And these chords are really crunchy. And so if you're not right in the middle, nobody's gonna be entirely sure what the chord is. It's just gonna sound really mushy. Also, a last note for the horns on those horn rips. In the first horn rip, you do have this, 15 tuplet that is happening above you. That's going to kind of emphasize your effect the last time you do it when you're going from the written C sharp to C sharp and A to A in those octaves. Nothing else is happening. That is all you. So rip that apart to your heart's content. All right. So if anybody has any questions for me, by all means, please reach out. You should have my contact information. And you can always find me on social media if you would like to chat with me further. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, happy rehearsing.